The room is quiet in the way midnight makes it quiet, when even familiar walls feel slightly distant. A person sits near the edge of a bed, not fully ready to sleep, not fully awake either. The phone screen has gone dark, and the last sound of the day has already faded. Their shoulders carry a tired heaviness, like something invisible has been resting there for years. Outside, the world keeps moving without needing permission. A car passes somewhere far away, and the sound dissolves into silence. The person's eyes stay fixed on nothing in particular, but their mind stays busy. It isn't the loud kind of busy. It is the slow, looping kind, where old moments replay with different endings that never happened, and words return that should have stayed gone. There was a time when trust felt natural, like breathing. It wasn't perfect, but it existed without being questioned. Then, life introduced interruptions, small disappointments at first, the kind people explain away. Later, the disappointments became patterns. A promise broken here, a truth hidden there, a kindness that turned out to have conditions. Over time, trust didn't shatter loudly. It thinned quietly. The person doesn't call it bitterness. They don't even call it protection. It feels more like a closing door that happened so gradually, they didn't notice the final click. They still speak politely. They still show up when needed. They still laugh at the right moments. But something behind their eyes stays cautious, as if their heart learned to stand back from the edge. Sometimes they wonder if they became colder. Other times they believe they simply became realistic. The difference is hard to measure at night. In daylight, they can explain it with logic. In the dark, it feels like loss. Not the loss of a person, but the loss of an earlier version of themselves. Someone who once believed people meant what they said. Trust didn't disappear because they wanted drama. It disappeared because they kept paying attention. They noticed how quickly affection could shift into distance. They noticed how apologies could sound like strategy. They noticed how easily someone could look into their face and still choose convenience. Each moment left a mark, and the marks eventually formed a map they couldn't ignore. Even the good moments became complicated. When something kind happened, the person waited for the cost. When someone offered support, the person wondered what would be expected in return. It wasn't paranoia, it was memory. The mind was doing what it always does after pain, building walls that look like wisdom. The heart stayed behind those walls, quieter than before. There are nights when the person remembers the first time they stopped trusting completely. It wasn't dramatic. It was ordinary, almost boring. A conversation that should have been honest but wasn't. A moment when they needed someone to stay, and that someone didn't. The room around them now feels like an echo of that earlier moment, holding the same kind of stillness. In that stillness, there is a presence that does not compete with their thoughts. Jesus is there like a quiet witness, not arriving with noise, not demanding attention. He observes the person the way someone watches a candle burn low, not judging the flame for being small. He sees the tired posture, the guarded eyes, the careful way they keep their feelings contained. He understands the shape of their hesitation, not as a flaw, but as a story. He sees what happened before the silence became a habit. He sees the moments the person tried again after being hurt, the times they chose hope and got disappointed anyway. He notices how often they carried the weight alone, because asking for help felt like risking humiliation. Jesus remains close, not as an interruption, but as companionship. He does not explain suffering like a lecture. He does not turn their pain into a lesson to be performed. He simply stays near the part of them that feels most cautious, the part that expects betrayal, the part that flinches at tenderness, the part that learned to survive by expecting less. The person's distrust is not loud. It does not shout accusations into the air. It sits in the background like a low light that never turns off, coloring every relationship and every conversation. Even when someone seems sincere, the person's mind keeps a small distance, measuring tone, timing, and intent. Trust becomes something they ration carefully, like water during a long drought. Jesus watches this without disappointment. He recognizes the way the heart adapts when it has been bruised too many times. He sees how the person learned to smile while staying guarded, how they learned to listen without revealing much, how they learned to leave first so they wouldn't be left. None of it looks dramatic from the outside, but inside it is exhausting. There were moments when they tried to speak about it, but the words felt too messy. People preferred simple stories, quick recoveries, neat endings. The person didn't have that. Their experience was layered, full of mixed motives and half-truths. So they stayed quiet. They became skilled at acting normal. Their pain didn't disappear. It simply stopped asking to be understood. Somewhere in them, there is still a memory of what trust used to feel like. It wasn't blind. It wasn't childish. It was a calm openness, a willingness to believe that love could be steady. That memory hasn't died, but it has been placed far away, like something fragile wrapped in cloth. The person avoids touching it, afraid it will break again. Jesus stands near that hidden place, not forcing it open. He knows the difference between healing and pressure. He knows that trust cannot be demanded into existence. It has to return at its own pace, if it returns at all. His presence does not argue with the person's defenses. It simply makes the room feel less empty, even in silence. The person's life has taught them that people can disappear without warning. That loyalty can change when circumstances change. That affection can be real one day and distant the next. They do not say these things to sound hardened. They say them internally like facts, the way someone describes weather. They learn to expect less because expecting less hurt less. And yet, there is something gentle about the way Jesus stays. He does not come to correct their caution. He does not treat their guardedness like rebellion. He looks at it as a wound that learned how to dress itself. He understands that the person's walls were built from real experiences, not imagination. He respects the reasons, even when they are heavy. In the quiet, companionship becomes its own kind of meaning. Not companionship that fixes everything, but companionship that refuses to turn away. The person may not feel suddenly brave. They may not feel suddenly open, but the presence beside them changes the atmosphere, like a steady warmth that does not demand a response. Nothing is solved, but nothing is mocked. The night continues moving forward, minute by minute, without ceremony. The person remains seated, still holding their private history close. Jesus remains there too, patient and silent. The scene is simple, almost ordinary, yet full of unseen weight. It suggests that even when trust is gone, a person can still be witnessed with care, without being pushed. Somewhere beyond that room, countless others carry similar stories. Trust lost in small cuts, faith in people worn down by time, hope dimmed by repeated disappointment. Not everyone talks about it. Not everyone knows how. But the human heart has a shared language, and it often speaks in silence. The night holds many quiet lives at once. In the end, the moment offers no dramatic turning point. It offers something quieter. A reminder that being known does not always arrive through answers. Sometimes it arrives through presence, through staying near what hurts without turning it into spectacle. In that calm stillness, the person is not fixed, not changed on command, but not alone in what they carry.